Today we're taking a look at the third of 7 miracles in the Gospel of John, and this is one that I think a lot of you could relate to. It's technically called the miracle at the healing pool, and here's what we're going to learn. In a world where everyone is for himself, some people never have a chance to find their miracle, but Jesus and Jesus alone has the power to help the desperate ones. We find this miracle in John chapter 5. Let's take a quick look and then let's draw out some insights. It says there that Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holy days, and inside the city near the sheep gate was the pool of Bethesda with 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches, and one of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him and knew that he'd been ill for a long time, he asked, "Would you like to get well?" The sick man said, "I can't, sir, for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me." So Jesus told him, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." And instantly the man was healed. Now, the rule of the pool was everyone for himself. And this poor guy had been laying there feeling pretty desperate and helpless. And the first thing that jumps out at me in this passage is that desperate people seek out miracle cures, right? It's still true today. But gimmicks don't have the power to heal. See, the pool of Bethesda, like many similar pools in the Jerusalem area, is an intermittent spring. Beneath the pool was a subterranean stream, which every now and then bubbled up and disturbed the waters. And the belief was that the disturbance was caused by an angel, and that the first person after the troubling of the water could be healed from any illness. The text says in verse 3 that crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. You can't really blame the people for flocking to this miracle cure, even if it was just a gimmick. In your own life, have you ever been desperate enough to seek out a miracle cure? Well, here's what we're going to learn in this story, that Jesus actually seeks out desperate people like you. He's not afraid to enter into suffering, even the most persistent pain. Verse 5 says, one of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. That's what we would call today chronic pain. Now, if you've experienced persistent pain in your life, whether physical or emotional or relational, you can probably understand the desperation and the hopelessness of this guy's situation. And some of you maybe can relate to this from the other perspective. You know people who have persistent, hopeless issues in their life, and you probably want to help them, but you're discouraged because it seems like an impossible situation. Well, I think this passage here shows us the heart of Jesus for people in this kind of pain. Jesus doesn't avoid these desperate situations. He actually seeks them out. He's not afraid. He's not intimidated to enter into suffering, even this kind of suffering. And I think that can come as a word of encouragement to so many of you who are struggling like this guy struggled. Now, there's one more thing I want to draw out of this passage. Some people get comfortable with the victim mindset. And so here's a principle. Healing is only available to people who truly want it. Back to the text, verse 6. When Jesus saw him and knew that he'd been ill for a long time, he asked him, "Would you like to get well?" Now, this is a strange question to ask of a person who's been sick for 38 years. Most of us would say, of course he wants to be well. Who wouldn't want to be freed of this desperate, persistent pain in their life? But Jesus never asked foolish questions. I think there's something to this passage here. See, Jesus knows all about people and their inner motivations. He knows you better than you know yourself. And the truth is that hurting and helpless people don't always want relief. Sadly, some people sabotage their lives with destructive choices. Some people get comfortable with their problems, almost like their problems are a security blanket. Now, I call this a victim mindset. You look in the mirror, you see the cards that you've been dealt, and you give up on finding a cure. But if that's you, I want you to remember this. Healing is only available to people who truly want it. Whatever your problem is, whatever miracle you're seeking in your life, Jesus and Jesus alone has the power to help you. But you have to humbly ask for his help. This is what the sick man did in John chapter 5. Let's read his response once again. "I can't, sir," he said, "for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me." And Jesus told him, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." And instantly the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. What an incredible story that reveals not only the power of Jesus, but also his heart for desperate people. Put yourself in the story, whether your need is physical or emotional or relational. And remember that John tells this story that you may believe in Jesus Christ, the only one who has the power to heal.